It's a show with two retired detectives that were in the thick of New York crime, fast and hectic. They got some stories and some jokes, even an interview with the most popular folks. Off the cuff, one episode just ain't enough. Get a little laughter and an interview too. It's maybe the best thing you can do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. We got a really interesting show tonight. Should be funny, nice and light, but we're sort of getting a little bit away from the real crime, but still be in the real crime genre. But we got a very special guest, and before I introduce the guest, I'm going to, of course, introduce my co-host, straight out of Brooklyn, retired NYPD detective Phil Grimaldi. How you doing tonight, Phil?
I'm good. I'm actually pretty light. I didn't eat that much today, so I think this is going to be a really good show.
You know, Phil, I notice your arms are so big just from you stirring those huge pots of sauce that you do every Friday night. I love, and well, let me introduce our guest. He's a great guy. The guest tonight is comedian, actually lawyer, New York City tour guide, and you know, you ever have someone that say, your dad's no brain surgeon. Well, his dad is a brain surgeon. So that's where he gets all his smarts from. But what he is, he's a tour guide, but his life is so interesting now. He's like a jack of all trades. And it's my pleasure. I actually met him in the comedy business when I was doing stand-up. Not that I'm totally away from doing stand-up, but I'm taking a little break from it now. So without further ado, let me introduce my good buddy, Tom Delgado.
Yeah, all right.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you so much. Insert all the clapping and audience here. Great. Thank you. No big deal. Thank you so much. No, but thank you guys for having me. Thanks so much, Bill. Good to see you again. It's great to meet you, Phil. Good to see you guys. Thank you.
It's great to see you because you know we did a video together and I did your comedy show on 3rd Street and Avenue B at Poco. I did it a couple of times.
Yeah. And
it's a great audience because the audience, it's a small place and the audience is right on top of you.
Yeah.
And I was always the oldest guy on the show though. I don't know if you did that on purpose.
You know what? Sadly, every week I'm the oldest guy on the show. So
is that right?
Yeah, it's a pretty young audience there for sure. But it's always a fun time.
You know, I just want to say to our audience, imagine having a son like Tom, right? And you're a brain surgeon. You make your son go to law school.
Oh,
and
boy.
He's like, the hell with that law degree. I'm going to be a New York City tour guide.
I love Phil. I love how Bill wasted no time in getting to this point. Yes, my dad was he was a brain surgeon, retired, and yeah, I was a lawyer, and I left it. But as I like to remind you, I didn't do that on a lark. You know, I did stand up for a while. I built a little bit of a career outside of it, and then I left. And I saved up money. I was responsible, Bill. So,
and you're also an actor, right?
Yeah, I act a little bit. I actually auditioned randomly. Here's a little truth. I auditioned for Law and Order today. Actually, I had to send in an audition for Law and Order today.
Wow, no kidding. You know, I recently I had this modeling agency that I was signed with, Abby Lynn Models, and they were sending me auditions like, you know, at least 3-4 times a week. And with this podcast, I just, you know, doing those self auditions where you got to do it on your phone, it's time consuming.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't have someone around that can read with you,
right,
it really gets to be a pain in the ass. So I was like stressing out. So I actually called her up and I said, you know, Abby, I can't do this anymore. I got, you know, I don't know if I'm quitting for the rest of my life, but I can't do it right now. And she was like, oh, really?
She's like, was
sure?
It something I did?
Yeah, they were like, they didn't almost understand.
Bill, what is this?
Tom, what part in Law and Order did you audition for? Can you say?
I auditioned for I guess it's like an episode. I don't know how much I can say about the episode, but it's let's just say I'm the criminal. Obviously, I guess. I mean, you can see my face. But yeah, I was a criminal who gets arrested.
Okay. When you said you're a lawyer, so did you actually practice law? Was it criminal law or?
So what I did was I graduated from law school. I came to New York, passed the bar, and then I actually worked in house at a company. And I was more writing about law. I was doing intellectual property and commercial contracts for this publishing company, and working with like more senior attorneys and stuff, helping them draft all these different things. I wasn't actually in the courtroom, which gave me time to just start stand up and do all that stuff, and gave me, I guess kept some of my sanity, which was nice. But yeah, I was there for about 4.5 years, and then I left, and now I do this, and make the videos, do some stand up, some acting, some everything, and piece it all together.
Tom, I want to show this little part of this video that we did together, and this was actually like 3 years ago.
Yes, so we should give some context. Me and so that, first of all, don't judge this. This is from early on when I started making these videos, and I was still making them to nobody. But me and Bill did one about crime in New York, actually, and it was super fun. Bill drove me around New York and told me about all these cool things that happened. I told him some things that I had learned, from studying New York and all that stuff, and it was a really fun video. And Bill loves the fact that we play guitar, so let's see the
clip. Let's play this clip.
That night, 5 men came. 4 of them went in through the back door while one waited in the car, and they came and started shooting at him while he was sitting at dinner with his family. Then he staggers out the door and actually collapses outside because they say he wanted to get the gunfire away from his family.
It's a stand-up wise guy.
He's a good man, I guess. And earlier that night, he was actually watching a show at the Copacabana by Don Rickles, believe it or not, famous comedian.
Now he can die. You see Don Rickles, now you can die.
Did you just call him Don Wrinkles?
No, well, maybe I should.
That'd be a pretty good roast. That'd be a pretty good roast. That's pretty good. Do you want to go keep walking around?
Let's head uptown.
So just also background, that was the story of Joey Gallo, which I'm sure you know, Phil, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's funny because Bill sounds like a gangster. He's like,
yeah, he does.
What's the craziest thing you ever saw here?
Well, we had a guy one time who was invited to a party. He was the guest of honor, and they tortured him, and they cut off his head and his hands.
He was the guest of honor.
Guest of honor.
I hate to see what they did to the coat check person.
Yeah.
They're getting a fight with a cop.
Not a physical altercation, lots of yelling.
Did you have to arrest yourself for obstructing justice? Well, cool. Should we go see something in the neighborhood?
Let's go up to Rails.
Oh, this is great. So I'm sorry, Bill. Bill was this, Phil, that Bill was actually the arresting officer on this, right?
No, I wasn't. Yes. But I was there.
He was on the case. He was on the case.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And a short little guy named Louis Lump Lump, he said to me, dude, why don't you give the lady a break, have a little respect? And he said, oh, really? He goes, I'll you right in the and the old man goes, no, you won't. He pulls out a gun and shoots him at the bar.
Wow. And you worked this case?
Well, it wasn't a tough case. He walked outside. The police grabbed him, put handcuffs on him. It wasn't really a whodunit.
What is Rayo's now?
It's a famous celebrity hangout. There's only 8 tables. It takes about 6 months to a year to get a reservation.
So celebrities like Bill Nye?
Well, Uma Thurman, anyone who's anyone.
So was the restaurant cooperative with the investigation?
No one saw anything. The bartender, Vinny the Vest.
The bartender's name was Vinny the Vest?
He's still there, Vinny the Vest.
You had a nickname about what you wear all the time. Would your name be Bill Newsy Cannon?
No, it'd be Billy Big Guns Cannon.
There you go.
This is a family travel show. Now we head to this other really cool spot that I know.
Wait, so Bill, you were on the case for this one because it was just in your district and you were just assigned to it, or what?
No, I was in Manhattan North Homicide Squad. So whenever there was a murder in any of the precincts in Manhattan North, we went. Mm-hmm. So this was in Manhattan North. It was in the
pretty cool that you just kind of got that. So Phil, I took a ride around. I'm sure you have tons of stories too this way, but I took a ride around with Bill, and we were driving around the car, and literally almost every corner over in, like, I guess the Spanish Harlem area, Bill would point to a corner and be like, oh yeah, we found a suitcase full of body parts over here. The landlord of this building paid her sons to murder the person upstairs. Every single corner was just some gory, insane story. He's like a mountain of stories. I'm sure you have the same thing, huh?
Come to Coney Island. That's all I'm going to say.
So that was your area.
Say again?
So your area was Coney Island.
I did a chunk of my career in a 6-0 squad in Coney Island, and a lot of high profile cases, body parts, different things. Yeah, I got a few stories.
Oh man, well, I'm gonna have to take you up on that, by the way.
And we were talking about how your podcast was doing. You did recently famous mob hits in Manhattan. There was plenty of them, but even before I was a cop, growing up.
Yeah.
As well as I responded to some heavy duty mob hits as well. So we should collaborate together and do another walk and talk, as we say, right?
I would love to. Well, yeah, one of the most.
And we'll end it at Spumoni Gardens so I can have some of that great pizza.
There you go.
Fantastic.
That'll be Bill's contribution. I think there.
He's
and
picking
also
up the check.
Yeah, speaking of the exactly, we'll eat on Bill's generosity, and Bill just hangs out. Well, yeah, I love the fact that in Coney Island was where like one of the most famous mob hits was the Joe Masseria hit, right?
There was also the Abe Rellis that was thrown out of the
thrown out the window.
Hotel.
Yeah,
me and Bill were talking about that recently. I sent them some articles on it. So, and matter of fact, when we were talking about your show, when we were off the air, we were talking about it. And I said, Bill, we should do something with all these different things that went on. Now, the Half Moon Hotel is no longer standing, but when I first worked there, it was a relic of itself, but it was still there. And then they knocked it down. They probably put some buildings up over there. But that's a great story when you hear how it happened, how this guy was going to, nobody ratted back then. And this guy came forward and he was going to take down some politicians and stuff. And he slipped on a banana peel and he went flying out the window as the detectives were bodyguarding him to go to court the next day. So
yeah, that's right. They were guarding him really closely and so they apparently.
Could you imagine?
Crazy.
Banana peel right out the window. So
what a coincidence, huh?
Yeah. But,
he slipped on a bar of soap. In the shower. This is I'm going to play a bit from your best mob hits in New York City. So we're going to get this thing going here.
Sporting the beard, Tommy with the beard.
Yeah, here it is.
Known as Satan Circus.
So this was out in front of where Beansy Rosenthal. I don't know if you knew about that hit, Phil or Bill.
Leo meme is from that one where he's doing that thing.
This was called the Hotel Metropole. So this is a guy, Beansy Rosenthal was like a he was an associate. This is way back. This is like Big Tim Sullivan, like the 5 Points. Like this is like pre Five Families.
Billy, he's getting into Tommy Dade's category.
Oh, we're gonna have to bring Tommy on. Now he's gonna get to Sparks.
So you know this one, right?
Yes,
Sparks.
There it is.
This is where Paul Castellano, the head of the Gambino crime family, was gunned down in cold blood. To set the stage, Paul Castellano had been the boss of the Gambino crime family since 1976, right? So by 1985, he had gotten a couple cases against him. He'd been in and out of court. He also was kind of stuck in the old school. He didn't want to be selling drugs.
So you were on the force, Phil, around this time
yeah, absolutely.
So you must remember this pretty closely, huh? Pretty well.
What, 85?
85.
Yeah,
I just
85.
came on January 21st to 85.
I forget what I was on about 3 years, right? I came on 82.
Another preemptive killing. So Gotti organizes a bunch of guys to come here. He actually waits in a car away from here with walkie-talkies with Sammy the Bull Gravano, his right hand.
And you guys had Sammy the Bull on, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about this?
Not this specific thing, but he was actually a great interview.
Yeah, we talked about.
He has a pretty popular YouTube channel actually.
Oh yeah.
And he's actually very candid and very open about everything. It's pretty awesome to hear, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'll tell you the way that they architect that hit. If you want to just pause it a second, Bill.
I think you could be
okay.
Behind
comment on it. The way they architect that murder, that hit, it was really, really very ingenious because they had, I think Sammy talked about it on his own podcast. He didn't talk about it on ours, but he said that one of the guys came up with the idea, Midtown Manhattan, Christmas time, was going to be busy, the streets bustling with Christmas shoppers and people going to dinner and stuff. And they all wore like
Russian hats, and they all had the same color. So it was going to be very difficult to make identifications,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And probably easy to take off and dump, and then go as Joe Blow, Joe Torres in Manhattan. So when you hear the story, though, it's actually it came very close to not even happening. There was cops on the block, and then they walked away, and they were at it off the set. And then when he pulled up, everything just went down. They actually, Paul Castellano and Bellotti, who was the
bodyguard, right?
The bodyguard. When they pulled up, they were actually right next to John Gotti and Sammy the Bull Gravano at one point, waiting to get into the block, cause of traffic, and they just put their heads down, did one of those.
Wow.
And, so it was an unbelievable story. That was actually the downfall of the Gambino crime family, because it wasn't a sanctioned hit by the commission, and they went outside of the rules and the laws, and they didn't forget it. Gas Pipe Queso and the guy who used to walk around Greenwich Village, Lucchese,
the Chin.
They didn't forget about that, and they exacted revenge a little at a time. And then the whole house of cards fell in when when they locked up all of them, and Sammy wound up cooperating and all of that. So that was actually the beginning of the end for them, so to speak. That was a really unbelievable
thing. The car away from the entrance here. 3 men in trench coats and Russian hats.
There we go.
To Paul Castellano and Tomas Bellotti, who was his 47-year-old bodyguard, and just light them up, man. Each of them were hit 6 times with bullets, and they died right there on the street on December 16th, 1985. At 5:30 p.m., they just wanted to enjoy a happy hour. Come on. They come here for a happy hour, and they get gunned down. So Gotti becomes head of the Gambino crime family until 2002, when he died in prison. He actually kind of orchestrated things from inside his jail, pretty much. But he moved operations to work out of the Ravenite Social Club in Nolita, which I covered in my Little Italy video. Yeah, that's right. And he actually died in 2002, but continued to terrorize from beyond the grave when his descendants started the reality show Growing Up Gotti. Yes, he was able to from the grave and terrorize us all.
He probably wasn't too happy about that.
All right.
No,
well,
probably not. Yeah.
That was great. That was excellent. I love the way you narrate these things. You come up with the humor. It's important to have humor in this stuff.
Yeah, this stuff's pretty dark. It's pretty dark.
That video right there, that reminds me of something that you would see on E. That channel, Hollywood channel, E channel.
Yeah, like the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, the way it was broadcast, you edited pretty good. I like that, with a little, putting up the little things in the corner, and then you hear the laughing and the squirming or whatever. From, Papa Gotti and heaven.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah,
it was good. It's good quality.
Thank you. It takes a lot of time for me to do that because I'm not very good at it. But yeah.
You do it all on your own? Do you have any help or producers or anything?
So what I end up doing is I've worked with many different camera people, but it's usually just the camera people. And right now I'm working with a guy named Eric, who's a filmmaker, and he's really, really talented. And he helps me shoot it, and he gives ideas for the camera and stuff. But as far as editing and all that stuff, I just do that. And producing and all the researching and all that stuff is all me. So it's a lot of work, but I mean, it's stuff that I would be doing anyway. Like I was telling you guys before we started up, that the book I'm reading, or have been reading for a while now, is this one right here, which is the Selwyn Rabb. This is pretty much like the Bible as far as like literature goes on the mob. This is pretty much the Bible. It goes from the beginning to present time, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
we have a live Bible that Billy and I refer to for anything mob related. I mentioned his name before. It's Detective Tommy Dades, who I actually worked with. Tommy, we came on the job around the same time, but he's like a walking encyclopedia on organized crime. And he amazes me because every time I talk to him, he'll talk about stuff before we were born, and he talks about stuff right up until now. He just really is. He's like you said, like an encyclopedia of organized crime stuff, and he actually put us in touch with Sammy on that case, because
that's amazing.
When he flipped, and he was he's in federal custody for, I think they debriefed him for about 2 years, Sammy the Bull, and put him in trials and stuff. But Sammy actually sat down with Tommy a few times, and then they stayed in touch and whatnot. So he actually is something's going to be on. I believe it's going to be late January. I think the 27th. They're working on something with 2020. Sammy the Bull, a whole big story about him. I guess it's like a 1 hour or 2 hour episode. So that's going to be coming up sometime in January, I believe.
That's pretty awesome. That's also too an interesting point. I guess Selwyn Rabb brings it up like in the intro, is that with the mob, because it's all done behind closed doors, because it's all done off the books, there's no SEC filings, none of that. It really is people like Tommy and people like Selwyn that kind of tell the story. That's who you rely on. you can't do research at the library on the mob. You can't do research in places of official documentation because there is none.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stuff that's told down, like, story, the generation to generation. So it's really important that people study that stuff because that's the only really way to tell those stories,
Well, even when we were listening to some of Sammy the Bull's stories, and just we've mentioned this before, but Philly knows this, and myself, Phil, and Tommy Dades were on the show, and we took a little guff from some cops that objected to the fact that we were interviewing someone who had been implicated in 19 murders. Mm-hmm. And we sort of reminded people that that's what we did for a living. We interviewed people that committed murders. Right. So why shouldn't we now be allowed? Because like people felt we were like glorifying him. We weren't the feds. We weren't the ones that cut him that deal that allows him to be a free man today. So I thought he was a tremendously interesting guest. And I would love to have him on again, to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. Yeah. He was a great interview. And if you look at any of the reviews or anybody that talks about it, they all talked about how it was a great interview. And 2020 actually watched that interview of Sammy with us. And they commented they thought it was a great interview as well. So going back to Selwyn Rib real quick, I met him a couple of times. There was he had a great interest. When I worked in the 6-0 squad in Coney Island, we had the Russian organized crime was very big there in the 90s. So I met him a couple of times. He was doing a lot of writing about them, but he's great for information on the mob, as well as Jerry Capici, who used to work for the Daily News. Now he has his own site called Gangland. And these guys they stay right on top of it. And obviously they have sources. They stay in touch with a lot of people, whether it be law enforcement or guys on the other side of the fence. And, they have a wealth of information on all of this stuff too. Yeah,
for sure.
Folks, this is our guest tonight, especially because Tom Delgado, who has his own channel, and mostly he's a New York City tour guide. He goes to all neighborhoods, and he's unbelievable that the historic information that he comes out with, and I'm sure he's not making it up. He does his research, and he does a fantastic job. And I've learned a lot watching his videos, but for our channel, if you're not subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and give us a thumbs up. We're trying to do something that we call in this business as cross-pollination. Hopefully that some of Tom's fans will like us and some of our fans will like him and go and watch his show. Tom, I want to just play a little bit of this. Is a little video from the dark Greenwich Village.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Which,
as Mark Twain, the guy who wrote Tom Sawyer. They say he haunts it as well. Someone claimed to have seen his ghost dressed in all white, claiming, my name is Samuel Longhorn Clemens, and I got a problem I got to settle. That was pretty good impersonation.
So this is the House of Death on West 10th Street. That's what they call this house. This was the Joel Steinberg case.
Okay.
Oh, in that building. He lived
there.
Oh, yeah.
So this is me telling that story of the Joel Steinberg case, which I'm sure you guys may remember, right?
Our friend Irma Rivera was very instrumental in this case.
Yeah, and this is a case. It's crazy because neighborhoods like Greenwich Village, and I did this video because Greenwich Village is obviously such a fancy neighborhood now, and so beautiful, and people don't know that in these buildings the stuff that happened. And Joel Steinberg lived in that building. And it was, to me, I thought it was a fascinating story. Like right now I'm pointing out the fact that one of Hedda Nussbaum's attorneys was one part of O.J. Simpson's,
Barry
Scheck, exactly right. And he went on to be on that all-star team of lawyers. And it was just the dream team. Exactly.
Well, Barry Scheck is big with the Innocence Project.
Yes, and he actually,
he teaches at Cardozo Law School.
That's correct. He does teach. He teaches here in New York. But
I'm a bit of a historian too.
Yeah, you are, Billy. Well, Billy, you wear more than one hat. Billy's a college professor. He's a homicide sergeant.
He's a musician,
actor,
and I do impersonations of people with Southern accents. Well, what you need to do is
that's pretty good, Bill.
That was my Dr. Phil. That was my Dr. Phil impersonation.
You got to get your watch in there.
That's right. I got me a $50,000 watch while I tell you what to do.
Courtesy of Oprah.
Wow, that was pretty good right there, Bill. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, so that was me telling the story of the Steinberg case at the House of Death, and then here this was before your guys' time. This was This was the bombing, the Weatherman bombing. And this happened at right next the next block, West 11th Street.
Ged, you narrate it. I have the real Tom Delgado here. You might as well narrate this.
Yeah, so this building, look how weird and modern it is. And the reason that is because that was that bombing in 1970s. That woman that I just showed was 25 years old. Her dad left her the keys to her building, right? To his building, sorry. When he went out of town, he went to the Caribbean, and she basically had a bunch of her friends over there who were part of the Weather Underground, and they were making bombs there. And there was an accidental explosion in the basement, like 30 sticks of dynamite or something, and it just basically blew the entire building up. And it was famous. The famous photos of it are of Dustin Hoffman running down the street with his art because he was trying to save it because he lived in the building next door. And so there's all these famous photos of Dustin Hoffman running through the streets of Greenwich Village with his art, trying to save his art because that explosion went up. And then she gets away along with her friend, and she doesn't turn herself in until 10 years later. And then her friend actually gets arrested in connection with another bombing, another heist, actually, of an armored car where two security officers and a police officer die. There it is.
That's the Brinks robbery in Nyack. And in fact, the San Francisco DA, his father just got paroled by Governor Cuomo. He was one of the drivers in that case.
Wow. Yeah. And that woman was there with the daughter of the owner of this house, and they both got away. She was arrested for that case, and they connected her with this bombing as well. And 3 people died in this bombing. And people don't realize that building has that weird modern, facade, but that's because it got bombed to high hell, and three people died.
How about Dustin Hoffman? He doesn't want to save his ass, but he's going to save his mom.
I know, that's such a funny picture. What a celebrity thing to do, Terry, taking your art down the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be nice to have art that's that expensive that you think to take it out of your apartment.
Greenwich Village is an amazing neighborhood. I lived there for like 6 years after I got out of the police academy. I lived on Barrow Street, which is right off of Grove there, right between Hudson and Barrow. And that old speakeasy, Chumley's was right up the block. I don't even know if it's open anymore, but it was such a historic. It's still open, Chumley's?
Well, you know the story about Chumley's, right? The 86 story?
I don't know. No.
This is kind of interesting. So the story is that there are 2 entrances to Chumley's. One is on Commerce, right there where it crosses Bedford. I'm sorry, Barrow, where it crosses Bedford. And then the other entrance is on Bedford. It's 86 Bedford. The main entrance is the other one on Barrow, right? So what they said, the story goes, is that whenever they would break up the speakeasy, whenever there would be a raid or something like that, they were on good enough terms that they would kind of give them a heads up. But as just as a precaution, they would empty everyone out the back before the raid got there, and they would 86 the party. They would 86 everyone out the back door.
So that's how 86.
That's where that's great. Because we used to use that when I tended bar. We used to use that expression.
If you guys have worked,
that guy's 86 out of here. That we used to use. I had no idea. Yep. Now that I know that, it's not going to do anything for me. But I'm glad that I know.
No, but that useless information that'll be good in a trivia question.
Yes. Bill, look, don't sell it short. Next time you're going to be walking down there, you're going to walk by Chumley's, and you're going to say that fact. You're going to say that fact, and you're going to remember this face.
That's amazing. People in the chat are saying, "Oh, you lived on Barrow Street. How fancy." What they don't know is, my brother had this rent-controlled apartment. It was like a railroad flat. And when he first moved in there, I think he was paying $95 a month. And then when I moved in, he was paying like $2 something. And he jacked my rent up. He made a profit off it. But I was living there for real cheaply. And I lived there for like 6.5 years. And then finally I moved out, and he continued to sublet it till he got caught. Joe Murray, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Joe Murray says, "Hi, Tom. My brother Malachi Murray. He has been a tour guide at the Circle Line for over 20 years.
Oh, cool.
He has a channel, New York Talk, and he wrote a book, Unique New York. You should meet him."
Okay, I definitely will.
That's pretty cool. I had no idea about that. And Malachi that's a big time Irish name.
Yeah. Isn't it Malachi?
Malachi McCourt is the brother of Frank McCourt, who wrote Angela's Ashes.
Oh, look at that. Look at the trivia. Who's talking about useless trivia?
Look at that, man. I knew my education would come in handy someday on a podcast,
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, that's true. That's true, though. It's funny that people say it's funny, though, that's the interesting thing. Like people talk about how now Greenwich Village is so fancy, but it wasn't. Like it was really like, and West Village, all that area near West Village today is like where Zuckerberg has a house, all this stuff. But, like in the mid 1900s, in the early half of the 1900s, that was all docks and longshoremen. And it was just the seediest part you could think of in Manhattan. That's a funny thing. People take that for granted. Now today, waterfront is like unanimous. It's like, synonymous with money. Being on the water is synonymous. But back in the day, in the early 1900s, that was where all the industry was, because that's where the ships pulled up and all that stuff. No one wanted to be on the waterfront in a city. If you wanted to be on the waterfront, you went to Newport, Rhode Island, or you went to the Hamptons or wherever. That's where the rich people had their waterfront stuff,
The waterfront funny in the city when they had, like you said, the ships and stuff like that. There'd be hookers and
yeah. Well, that's another story. You know that story, right?
Drug dealers.
The story of hookers, right? So this is one of the theories. Okay, people are going to jump on me. There's multiple theories of where it came from, but this is one of the common accepted theories of where the word hooker came from. Okay. Is Corlear's Hook. Corlear's Hook is part of the Lower East Side, where there were lots of docks back in the and early 1900s. And obviously prostitutes hang out where the sailors are. So they called them hookers. Corlear's Hook. That was the little area there. So
very informational tonight, Tom.
There's another trivia for you.
Amazing trivia. When I lived in the village, I guess it was 1986 to about 90, 92. And my car got stolen like twice, once off the Barrow Street and once off the 6th Precinct block. And I was just like, this was New York City in the 80s, in the late 80s. And I was like, I want to get the hell out of here. This is ridiculous. I can't even park my car with it. Got broken into. And the one time, I think I had an 82 Buick in 1986, 87. I had an 82 Buick. And as I said, they stole it twice. One time it got recovered in Jersey City. All the tires were gone. All the windows are smashed. And the damn insurance company fixed it. I didn't want them to fix it. I just wanted the check to get a different car. But they fixed it. And I was like, and then it got stolen again. I was like,
they probably saw your music selection and just left the car in Jersey.
Yeah. But 77 WABC was my music selection.
Yeah, right.
Sherilyn Schaffner. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. Suddenly feel like I'm getting a real education now. Well, I told you, Tom Delgado is a smart guy. His father was a brain surgeon. He's a retired brain surgeon, right? And he's got a law degree, so he's got a lot of useless knowledge, but it comes in handy as a tour guide.
Billy, should we clue in on a few cop synonyms?
Copisms? Go ahead.
Any idea, if I referred to a bus, what would you think a bus is? And I'm not talking about, a transportation bus. What would you think a bus is?
A bus? I don't know. What's a bus?
Billy, tell him what a bus is.
A bus is an ambulance. So
Ah.
a cop, when he calls, he goes, Central, can I get a bus to this location? It's old lingo. You know what? My favorite cop expression is
we got to explain where it comes from, though. The reason they call it
I don't know.
bus,
You come on. You could tell.
The reason that they call it a bus is because a lot of times people, instead of, getting up and getting themselves to the hospital, they call the ambulance, I got a cold, and they take the ambulance to the hospital. So it got the nickname of the bus, and it just stuck. I mean, as long as I was on the job, I came on 82, and it was probably way before that. So
one of my favorite copisms is an expression called hairbag. And so I'm going to explain what I was told it got the term was that old time cops, they wouldn't spend their money because every year you get a uniform check. And you get it right before Christmas. So they would use the check to buy presents for their kids. So as a result, their uniforms look horrible. So the uniform, it appeared like it was growing hair out of it. So that's where the expression came from. That guy's a hairbag, because
they could have spent it on their kids' order gumada, or maybe
they could have done that. Yeah, they could have. That's very true. But there's a lot of different copisms. We have some cops in the chat. If you guys have any good cop expressions, you want to.
There's a ton of them. There's a ton.
There's so many of them. But Tom
the
Delgado,
word collar. Do we know where the word collar comes from? I've heard a few stories about that.
Lieutenant Pete Pranzo says salty. That's a hairbag expression too, right, Lieutenant Pete?
Yeah, that's salty is when you're starting to get the hang of things, so to speak. So you get a little salty. I think that's a fisherman's term too, right? When you're on a boat a lot, your skin starts to get salty. But what was the one I was just thinking of? A collar. Because the cop would grab years ago. They took people in. They never put handcuffs on them. The cops would grab you and drag you in by your collar, or a pinch, which I guess. That one's kind of self-explanatory.
A lot of wise guys like to use that. Yeah, I don't want to get pinched.
Yeah, that was a big wise guy term. You're right.
Right.
The bulls.
The
when
bulls,
I was a kid,
yeah.
they referred to detectives as the bulls, and later years, because I grew up right in the middle of Gravesend. There was a million wise guys. I mean, I was right around them. I worked in a Italian Sala Maria on Avenue U, and there was tons of wise guys back then. And they would refer to, when they saw either detectives or FBI agents, they would see them, swing by where they go, oh, the agents are out there. I got to go out the back or something like that. They refer to them as agents. I think that name still sticks today, to refer to them as agents. And I think Sammy even Sammy the Bull used that term. So when he was talking about, it was Christmas time and the agents were outside his office on Stoll Avenue. And when he came in, the girl says, so Maddie, and I forget the second guy's name. Maddie and so are outside, and he's like, "Really?" And he went and made hot chocolate for them or something because it was freezing cold. It was near Christmas time, and he sent cannolis outside. Like,
nice.
what are you doing? And he goes, "Listen, it's not a bribe or anything like that. Just I feel bad. It's Christmas time here, guy. And a lot of the heavy duty wise guys, they were on first name basis with the guys that were, on the case to surveil them and stuff like that, assigned to surveil them.
Tom, when we did our episode with Sammy in the very beginning of it, I don't want to pull it up right now, but the very beginning of it, he goes, I know where all three of you guys are, and I'm sending a hit team to your house. And I said, Sammy, don't forget, we're all strapped too, and we practice.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
true."
Well, what a nice way to start the interview.
That's right. That's right.
We're all strapped here, so don't try to kill us.
Yeah. It was funny too. Somebody came on and they made a $9.99 super chat or of a $5, whatever it was. He goes, "Hey, do I get 50% of that?"
That's right.
Nice.
He was looking for a piece. He was looking for a piece of the super chat. I was like, "Oh man, if that's not a wise guy's mentality, right?"
Right. Do I get a taste? Do I get a taste of that? What was my taste?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me wet my beak, like they used to say in The Godfather.
Yeah.
Mamachi, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Fun show tonight.
Connie Galdos also gave a little super chat. That's nice.
Thank you so much, Connie. I didn't say her name.
I saw it.
Oh, there she is. She is. Connie Galdos, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Great crossover. Thank you. You must be a fan of Tom Delgado. I don't recognize the name.
I know Connie. Yeah, she's very nice.
That's great.
I got to tell you guys this real quick. Now, I texted Tommy Dades. I said he was an encyclopedia, and I hope he's watching this. Now, I said, Tom, off the top of your head, we're going to be talking about mob hits in Brooklyn. And, send me, anything. He sent me like about 8 of them. He's going into hits. Oh,
my God.
All over Brooklyn. Galleon, Steve Piazza, Nick Rizzo, the Carini brothers, Santoro, Jimmy. Oh, my God. He's really, I tell you, He's really something. He's a walking.
Billy, we'll do that when we do a show with Tom Delgado. We'll go.
I would love to
go live on location, and we'll bring Tommy Dades with us.
I would love to meet him. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. When I grew up in Gravesend, there were a few hits that were. There was a couple of guys. One of the guys' names was Tommy Shachgioli. I don't know if it was one of his first hits. It was early in his career. It had to be like the early 80s, somewhere around there, right around the corner from my house. 2 guys walking down the block. Guys jump out to shoot them. And it was a father and son. And they ran up onto a porch and tried banging on the door. And these guys opened up with shotguns and they killed, I believe they killed the father and the son was injured. But they also, one of the shotgun blasts went right through the door. And there was a retired nun that lived in the house. Or she had left the convent. And she was going to answer the door, and the shotgun blast went right through the door and killed her. And Tommy Shachgioli was years later in the 90s. Ralph Doles was killed, who was a New York City housing police officer. He was targeted for death by another mobster, and Tommy Shachgioli was on it. He wound up becoming an informant on it. And I believe he became an informant. Not 100% sure about that, but there was talk about it. How when he did that first hit and they shot the nun, he said, "I'm going to hell for this." And he used to actually go and pray every once a week or something. He would go to a local church and he would go in the yard where the saints were and he would pray. And he didn't change his ways of killing people.
You're right.
Going after people. I think he was implicated in the Billy Catullo homicide. Was a mob boss in the Colombo crime family. But yeah, he right around the corner from my house. We heard the shots and everything. And I don't think I was on the job. It was either right before I got on the job or right after. So that was a big hit. And then there was another one during the Colombo mob war when I actually worked in the 60 squad. Colombo mob war was going on early 90s. And they killed a guy by the name of Nicky Black Renacio, who I happened to have known him growing up. I knew who he was. The deli where I worked, the Sal Marie, he used to come in there. And one of the things about him was I'll never forget when they blew up a guy who had a Cadillac, and the bomb, the undercarriage of the Cadillac had steel, and the bomb didn't kill him. It injured him. A guy by the name of Frank Copa. And after that, all the wise guys in the neighborhood
got Cadillacs.
They got the electric start on the car where nobody had them. It was brand new. So Nicky Black comes into the Sala Maria, and it was the cold winter time. And look at my car across the street. And I'm like, what do you mean? Just check it out. And he watched this, and he pulls out this big remote, looked like a beeper, and he hits it. And all of a sudden, you see the tailpipe, it was cold out, the puff of smoke. I got the electric start. And it was like he was looking out that nobody was going to blow him up. And then,
yeah, because everyone was paying Philly 50 cents to start their car.
Not me. I was around a lot of those guys, believe me, and I saw a lot of things, but I didn't get that close,
Carrie Bender, thank you for the $5 super
Carrie.
chat. Angelica Galdos, thank you for the $2 super chat. Ultimate Sick Plug, thank you guys. I wanted to just play a short part of the video that I did with you, and this is right near the end. And I think this was pretty exciting for me, Wait, don't tell me. Oh, here you go.
So that wasn't totally gratuitous music playing. That was actually, so Phil, I don't know if you know this, but that was the song that Bob Dylan wrote about Joey Gallo.
Yes.
After he died, actually, he wrote a song about Joey Gallo because of, I guess, his story was so interesting, whatever. But yeah, me and Bill played it, and I dressed up like Bob Dylan. A pretty bad impersonation there, but you know what?
That was great. That
All
was
good fun.
Listen, I can't shut Tommy off. He's still sending me.
I love it.
He's when we say he's an encyclopedia, he's unbelievable.
You poked a hornet's nest, Phil. You poked a hornet's nest.
Listen, I talk to Tommy every day. We touch base with each other once a day. Well, a couple of times a day. But when I talk to him, and we'll talk about what's going on, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then if I start to get on the subject of anything organized crime, I'll say, Tommy, you remember that time? He'll go into that story. He'll explain details you can't believe. Then that takes him to another story related to another story. And before you know it, I'm on the phone with him for 45 minutes and I asked him one question,
Right. You're like, I'm late to my daughter's soccer practice. Thanks a lot. What's your problem?
Right. Exactly. Something like that.
Yeah. Look at that on the screen. Gotham Comedy Club.
Yeah.
You must be very close to making it big.
Yeah.
Is the guitar and the instruments part of your act?
No, that was just I did a different show. That was a different show I did there once a little while back. That's the flyer for the show we do every week, every Wednesday. That's my co-host. Her name's Courtney McGinnis, who's very funny. That's a flyer from when it was virtual over pandemic. And those are just pictures from the show. We've been doing that show for like 6 years. We do in the Lower East Side, Alphabet City. Every Wednesday at 7:30 at 3rd and B. Bill's actually done it. Bill's actually done it before.
Remember this show?
I do remember that show.
You know what was funny about this show? You did a bit where the people in the balcony started throwing money down onto the stage.
They started throwing coins onto the stage.
Oh, I saw a couple of bills.
There were some bills, but people were throwing coins. That's when I was like, I got to get off stage.
Did you have safety glasses on?
No, I didn't have safety glasses on, and then coins were starting to. I could hear them like ding, ding, just hitting all the stage. I'm like, oh crap! All right, bit's over, guys. Let's move on.
Philly, it's funny. I did his show twice on 3rd Avenue B, and as I said, the audience is really very close to you.
Yeah,
and that's a good feeling for a performer. Yeah. But I mean, I love stand-up comedy, but it's just too much right now. Like the hustle of it is more than, you could drive into the city. It could take you an hour and a half each way to do 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the business. So
Right.
it's like, it's like diminishing returns of, unless you're real young and you think that's what
Bill,
you
should. So here's an idea. You and Phil should start your own weekly show. You guys could perform on your weekly
police
show.
off the cuffs. Don't give Phil any more ideas. He's going to be doing stand-up before you know it.
I'm not kidding. You guys should start your own police off the cuff weekly show. You guys can get your fan base and all the people who love your stuff to come in every week, and then it'll grow. Before you know it, Phil Grimaldi's going to be playing Madison Square Garden.
What, you're talking about comedy now? Are you talking comedy?
I'm talking about comedy, Phil.
All right. I don't know. I have to really, brush up on that. I don't know how funny I am. Tom, Bill, you're a funny guy. I'm here to.
How am I funny? How am I funny?
How am I
funny? Clown?
Yeah, right.
He always calls me Joe Pesci.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Tommy's still texting me. It's amazing. He won't stop.
Tom, let me ask you something. What, out of all the neighborhoods that you've done a tour on your tour guide stuff and shows that you've done in neighborhoods, what's your favorite neighborhood to do a tour on?
Well, I don't know. I always like taking people outside of I used to do more actual public tours and stuff like that, and I do little private tours here and there. People will contact me through the YouTube channel and stuff, and I'll do those every now and then. But my favorite place to take people is to take people out of Manhattan and to take them to places they would never have gone to. So like the other day, I took people to Jackson Heights and Elmhurst and Flushing, and people's heads explode because they see that and they're like, "What is it?" They like. I didn't know this existed. You see all these people, it's all Bangladeshi and Chinese and Latino and all this. There's everything but white people. And so you just look around and you're like, this feels like a different country.
What's wrong with white people?
No, nothing's wrong with white people. But I'm just saying, like, when you're in Manhattan, you get a very different sense, and then you go to these places and you're like, this is like a different country. You're hearing all these different. So for example, Jackson Heights is, 167 languages spoken there in this area that's like the size of half of Central Park. That's insane. Think of that. And you place like Elmhurst, Flushing with the Chinatown and all the history from even the 1600s and all the history of tolerance and acceptance of different religions and people. It's all this like crazy stuff that people don't know exists. Obviously, people know about the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, and all that stuff. But when they get to these places, they're like, "Oh, this is where the quote New York experience is happening now."
Well, Tom, Phil and I refer to certain locations as a 1 or 2 magazine location.
Or where you have to read in 1 or 2 magazines on the way there?
That means that I could use the word clip. It's so dangerous that you need an extra clip. So that's a 2-clip location. So
that's funny. That's funny. Wait, which one? Elmhurst?
No, I don't think those areas are so bad. Now he's talking about like when we worked in bad areas, like
do or die, Bed-Stuy, like Pat Russo runs the boxing program. Mm-hmm. And the gym was in a place where I said, "Is that a 1 or 2 clip location?" He goes, "You better bring a second clip."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny because you're talking about areas of New York specifically. I could talk about Brooklyn down by the waterfront that 25 years ago, I'd be comfortable there with my 2 guns on me. But now it's all gentrified. They put hotels up, buildings, restaurants. My daughter's birthday is tomorrow, and we're going out to a restaurant right there in between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge, a restaurant by the name of Sacconi's. It's right on the waterfront there and really, really nice. But, going back to the comedy thing, though, a little bit, it's a shame. Like, if you look at a movie, like, to me, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen was Blazing Saddles. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was just line after line of funny stuff. And today it seems like comedy is so caught up in the politically correct and the cancel culture. You can't say this and that. And that always seemed to be like, they made fun of the president from, Johnny Carson days when I was a kid. It was okay to do that, and now it's just like they make fun of the president in like a malicious way, and you can't say certain things. And it's a shame because people need to laugh, and
well, I will say this, like, I can see what you're saying. There is blowback and people get, there's these like back and forths about certain jokes and stuff. But I will say this, on the other hand, one of the beautiful things about today is that you don't need to go to NBC. You don't need to go to those places for your comedy. You can go like YouTube. You can go there. It's everywhere. And so the gatekeepers no longer serve the gatekeeping function. So these people who are getting in trouble for a joke and they don't get to host the Oscars or whatever, fine. Like, are they really, being blocked from doing comedy when there are all these other avenues? I mean, you look at like what we're doing right now. This wouldn't have been possible 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Good point.
And so in the end of the day, like if you do have a certain type of comedy you want, there is someone doing it out there. It may not be, at 8:30 on NBC, but it's somewhere. So I think that's a beautiful thing that I think that like I'm trying to take advantage of, you and Bill are trying to take advantage of. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the nice thing to remember, that in the end, like it's hard to cancel someone today, truly, because there are all these other ways to kind of reach your audience,
For sure. Scotty Wagner, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Scotty Wagner says, how about a tour of famous murders in the projects throughout New York City?
I could get Bill to help me with that one. Bill, you have someone.
That's a three-clip location.
You got to bring it and an extra gun too.
Yeah.
I always remember this murder in the 2-3 precinct because it was so horrible. A brother, it was on 100th Street and First Avenue. I remember the guy's name, but I'm not going to say it because, someone could be listening. But a brother shot and killed his own brother right in the head. He shot his brother right in the head on the 100th Street and First Avenue. And it was just like, to me, it was, of course, drug related.
Were they kids? Were they old?
No, they were, I'd say they were 18 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, really, you killed your brother over drugs, The real reality of
he should have just done what brothers normally do, just give him a nice good wedgie instead.
Yeah, that's right. Or a noogie or something like that.
A nice hard wedgie and just call it even.
Billy, in the early 80s, there was I can't mention the names because I grew up around these guys, but there was a guy from the neighborhood, 4 or 5 brothers. One of them was a made guy. I'm not even sure what family he was in, but a made guy. And he had a brother who was a junkie, a drug addict. And the brother was right in the area where the guy who was the made guy, it was like his area. And he, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, he had a chain attached to a car, and he was pulling the gate off of a store to burglarize it. Somebody went and told the brother. So the brother pulled up. He got out with a rifle. He's, what the fuck is wrong with you, brother? And he fired a couple of shots at the brother. Now he aimed it at the floor. One of the shots skipped off the floor, hit the brother, and killed him. And the guy who did it, he wound up I don't think he was ever charged with the murder. He wound up in jail, and he died in jail. I think he had AIDS. But made guy, and like you said, killed his own brother.
Tom, we're just going to take a quick break because sure. Joe Murray's in the chat and we got to do his commercial.
Okay.
Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Or do you need a podcaster? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He is not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. That's jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, 646-838-1702. Or you could email Joe at jmurray-law.com. That's joe@jmurray-law.com.
Joe Murray's been very instrumental in helping me out and helping the Police Off the Cuff podcast. And I just want to mention that Joe now has his own podcast.
Nice.
With his girlfriend, Angie, called Allegedly Guilty. And if you like him on our podcast, don't like him so much on his. Like him on ours.
Like him on both.
Like him on both. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't be giving him a plug if I didn't like him. So Joe has a podcast called Allegedly Guilty, and he also has a mean left hook, as someone can attest to. He was on the PBA boxing team as a heavyweight for years.
Oh, cool.
And he had to flee the job when the job went after him, and now he's a lawyer. So just like Tom Delgado, maybe they could start a law firm, Podcasters Law.
Maybe I can file papers for him if things go south for me. I can go file papers for him.
You could come up with an office like, podcast comedy law. We got to figure out a way to get it all under one umbrella.
Yeah, maybe I'll just tell jokes to everyone while they wait in the lobby for their appointment or something.
Are you here for boxing lessons, or are you here to see the lawyer?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh, God.
That's great. Joe Murray's a good man, though. Good man. And he really is. He showed on this show, we're kidding around a lot tonight, but we've done some real serious cases over the last 4 or 5 months, and Joe has given us some expert analysis about the law. We've challenged one another. Bill and I have challenged him. We haven't always agreed, but we've always been very, very respectful to one another. And he does make some good points. He knows the law inside and out. And if you really are in trouble, I tell you, he's definitely the guy to call upon to help you out.
All right.
You know, Tom, is there a neighborhood now in New York City that you haven't done a tour in?
Oh, well, I haven't done videos in a lot of neighborhoods. I mean, first of all, it takes a lot of time to do those things. So while walking around, each one of those videos is like 30 minutes long. So I have yet to do, I'm working on one through the south, part of the South Bronx. It's obviously a very big area. I've talked to a few business owners there and stuff, trying to set up a video there. Also one in Harlem and all that, but I want to do them justice. So I'm really trying to make them deep dives and interview some business owners and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of neighborhoods that I haven't done videos on. I've done a lot of different, back when I did actual walking tours, I did pretty much every neighborhood, Manhattan, a bunch in Brooklyn, Queens. I was in the Bronx. I've been even to Staten Island to do tours. So I've been all over.
You know, Tom, there's not a more difficult place to get to in this world than Staten Island.
Yeah,
My
you know, it's
God.
interesting. It's interesting you say that because I was just talking about this to someone else and how all the neighborhoods are getting expensive. Even Queens now, we're talking about Queens is getting also slowly gentrified, getting too expensive. But they're saying, I read this book. It's called A Super Sad True Love Story, but it's about New York in like 70 years. And in this book, they predict that Staten Island is going to be like the hipster haven where all the young people live and where it's cool to live and everyone's going to be taking the ferry back and forth and all this stuff. And so don't knock it.
No, I'm not putting it down. I think once you get there, it's nice.
Yeah,
but getting there is hell. It
is.
is absolute hell.
Yeah.
Jerry Dibbs.
A little bit of a problem to get to Staten Island. We used to refer to it as the Guinea Gangplank because
That's
there were a
right.
lot of Italians in Staten Island with the Verrazano Bridge.
Yeah.
And to get through that, you know, I got to go into Brooklyn sometimes, and to get through Staten Island is always a heartache. That bridge, there always seems to be traffic and construction and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what Bill was getting at. That there's no train that goes there. It's either the Verrazano Bridge, there is the Bayonne Bridge,
and I think that bridge is like the last time I went over it was $13.
Yeah, I think it's even more now.
The VZ is 19 now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well,
Jerry Dibbs.
Trivia.
Jerry Dibbs, thank you so much for the $10 super chat.
please.
And she says,
Bensonhurst.
they want you to do Bensonhurst.
Yeah,
we could do some mob hits in Bensonhurst, and we could also stop at Spumoni Gardens.
Right. Listen, Tom. Have you ever been in that area, like the Coney Island, Gravesend, Bensonhurst area? Did you do anything?
I've been in that area.
Okay, so are you familiar with L&B Spumoni Gardens?
I've never eaten there. No.
Okay, well, L&B, they're relatives of mine, distant relatives, and Bill and I have been there. They filmed just recently. There's a series called Gravesend that's filming right now. It's like a mob 80s series, and they filmed there. That's the night we were there. That was
nice.
one of the desserts that they served us. But there's always movies being filmed there and stuff like that. There we are at L&B. That was about, I guess, about a month or two ago. But there's a lot of things happened in that area. Like when I was growing up, they filmed The French Connection around there.
Yep.
I mean, the greatest chase scene in modern times.
The famous chase.
Yeah, that was right near my house. It's right down the block from L&B Spumoni Gardens where his first crash is. And then I actually worked in the 6-0 and covered the projects where the shooting starts and all of that. So I know all about that. And then years later, I would say probably about 10 years ago, they filmed a movie, maybe more, Russell Crowe about the drug dealer Frank Barnes. What was the name of that movie, Billy? You remember that?
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name.
It was Russell Crowe. It was about Frank. Was it Frank Lucas or Frank?
Yes,
Frank Lucas. Yeah. Anyhow, so and it was right in that same area, the Marlboro projects, the Marlboro houses, and my partner and I had homicides in that project. And
wasn't Bensonhurst also where the also Saturday Night Fever? Wasn't that Bensonhurst?
Absolutely, yes, right. It's funny because about 3 years ago, John Travolta came back.
It was American Gangster. Someone in the chat said American Gangster.
American Gangster.
Right. Yeah, that was filmed there. But John Travolta, that was like a very iconic movie.
The Lenny's Pizza, right?
Yeah, Lenny's Pizza.
Yeah.
He came back to. I think
Yes.
it was the 50th anniversary,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. He came back to Brooklyn, and I was actually bodyguarding Willie DeMeo, who's the producer, the creator, the actor, the lead actor of this Gravesend show. And he asked me to come down with another guy, and we bodyguarded him. And I got pictures on my phone.
Cool.
Bo Dietl was there, and all the people that were. It was right around the time he was doing the movie. It was a Gotti movie that John Travolta played
That's
John
right.
Gotti, and
That's
Willie
right.
DeMeo played Sammy the Bull. So they had all the people from the cast. It was like a crush of people. It was 1 million people came down. They thought it was going to be a couple of thousand. It turned out to about 15, 20,000 people.
That's crazy.
Joe
His wife was still
Murray.
alive.
Joe Murray says, thank you again, Joe, for the $4.99 super chat. He says, Tommy, a laughing jury is not a hanging jury.
Yeah.
So, I think that, Bensonhurst and Phil, you and Tommy Dades, I'm sure know a lot of the history from that neighborhood.
Absolutely.
But someone in the chat says, Bill, you clearly like Spumoni Gardens. Well, if you don't know the square pizzas they have, it's unbelievable. It's like I almost feel like going out now and getting one, but it'd be like a 2-hour drive each way.
You want to laugh, Billy? I told you before, I went to bring my daughter some stuff in Staten Island. She goes to Wagner College. And I went to bring it, and I brought her a pizza. We had pizza from. I took it home Sunday night, and her and her friends got it there.
It's unbelievable. Phil gave me 2 large pies to go that night. So
you're not supposed to say anything. I'll get in trouble.
I brought one home, and my son was staying overnight. He lives in the city. He took it home. We froze one. He took it home, and Philly told me what you have to do is to revive it. You just pour a little bit of olive oil on it.
There you go.
And then you heat it up. He goes, it's right back to, and that's what he did. He said it was unbelievable.
Okay, listen, guys, I get it. Listen, I'll let you guys buy me dinner there already. What this talk is, that's fine. You guys can buy me dinner there. I'm excited for it.
Listen, it's really a historic place, though, too, because it's in business over 80 years.
Sure.
It's a real family place. Anybody that ever lived in Brooklyn always comes back there. If they live out in Long Island and they're coming in for different things, they always stop there. Or the other way from Jersey, they come in, if they're going out to the city or something. So, and Billy, how good was the food, though?
It was amazing. And you know what was the coolest thing? As I walked in, 2 uniformed cops go, "Aren't you Cannon from Police Off the Cuff?"
Yeah,
I was like, wow. I felt like a celebrity. I was like, wow, that's so.
Bill likes it so much.
Yeah, exactly. I was recognized. You know what's
funny about that? I told Billy that story like 2 months before. The same cop came up to me. He goes, one of the guys was talking to him, and I went over and I said, "How you doing, guy? I used to work in the 60 squad, Phil Grimaldi." He goes, "Wait, Phil Grimaldi from Police Off the Cuff?" I go, "Yeah, it's a matter of fact, that's yeah." And then the same guy got Billy, and then I saw him I saw him Sunday night. It's like, "Hey, what's going on? How's the show?" He's really into it. Good guy. I think he's from PSA 1 in Coney Island, a housing cop.
Amazing.
I forget his name. I'm so bad with names. I should have mentioned it. But my cousin Lenny is the chef at L&B. He's been there since he's a teenager, just about when he could start walking. He started working there, and he's married into the family. And it's a great place. And if we get together, Tom, maybe we'll collaborate there and then figure out what we're going to do in the area with Coney Island, Abe Rellis.
When we get together. That's
right. Exactly.
When we get together. I'm definitely going there.
Bring the film crew.
I'll bring it. Don't you worry. That sounds amazing. And I'd heard of Spumoni. I'd heard of it before. I'd never been though. Never been.
Yeah.
And don't forget the cannolis.
Leave the gun. Take the cannolis.
Leave the gun. Take the cannolis. Come on.
There you go.
Matter of fact, there's a scene from that movie that was filmed just a few blocks away on East 5th Street off of like Avenue T, where Clemens's house was. When he's right before that hit, he comes out of the house and the driver picks him up, and they wound up killing the driver. I think that was Paulie, no?
Okay. Yeah. I'm vaguely picturing the house in my head.
Yes, that's right in the area too. So a lot of different things took place in that area of Brooklyn over the years.
Hey, Phil, that was the greatest line in The Godfather when the character played by Fish says to Tom Hagen, "Hey, Tom, anything you can do for me? For all time sick."
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry.
Good business.
Sorry, can't help you.
A lot of famous people come from that area too. Like Harvey Keitel came in L&B one night. He lived in Brighton. I believe that Neil Diamond went to Lincoln High School. Barbara Streisand's from the area. I think she went to Erasmus though, a little further down in Brooklyn, not exactly in that area. But yeah, a lot of famous people come from that area. So
Neil Diamond was like one of the CDs that my mom had, like 2 CDs growing up, and that was one of them. And so every time I hear Neil Diamond, I just think of riding around in my mom's van. Hear the song
Neil Diamond's got to be
coming
close
to America.
Right. He's got to be close to 80 years old, I would think.
Oh yeah,
right?
like 130 or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
He's up there. He's an oldie but goodie.
Yeah, oldie but goodie. That's definitely. I mean, you'll definitely get a crowd going with Sweet Caroline. That's going to be. I think in 400 years.
Me of Hunt the Mountain. We used to go up to Hunt the Mountain in the Hunt the Village Inn. They'd have happy hour, and everybody'd be going crazy when that song came on.
Oh yeah, I think that's going to be the song that, like, in 300 years, people will be singing it in the metaverse or wherever we are. But
Sweet Caroline.
yeah, our
Oh,
avatar.
so good, so good, so good, so good.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, what are you doing with your music? You still playing guitar and
I
singing?
play a
songs?
little bit. I play a little bit of guitar. I actually, when I first moved to New York, I was playing music at open mics before I started doing comedy and stuff. I was playing a little bit of music, but I just play for fun now. It's fun. I prefer the old nylon string. I got the little nails to prove it there. The little nails.
Do you really?
To little finger pluck and all that stuff. And yeah, I have a Cordoba nylon string.
I played that guitar, and because you were playing the Taylor, so
yeah. So I have the steel string, I have electric, and I have the nylon string. And my favorite is the nylon. I don't know why, I just like the finger. I love the Jim Croce. That's my big thing.
That's right. I like
that
Jim
kind of like
Croce
finger
a lot,
pick is
too.
my stuff, man. I love it.
That's great.
So
folks, tonight this was a little bit of a different type show than we normally do, but it's a lot of fun. I like trying something different. I said we may not get the 1,000 people in the chat, but we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. And it's so great to have Tom to see you here tonight. And
yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
You know,
it was also nice to meet Phil. I feel like I had to pass the Phil Grimaldi test, and I wonder if I did. This is a lot of pressure. This is a lot of pressure coming in. I wore my best shirt.
Yeah, what's with the hair, man? You grew your hair real long. How your mom and dad feel about that now? You got a law degree and long hair, and you're not doing what they wanted you to do.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, I'm bringing it back. Maybe one day there'll be people wearing suits into court, with long hair and beards. But
Ron Kuby, Ron, you're not trying to pull off a Ron Kuby, are you?
Kuby, there you go. You can do it. It can be done. So
listen, he's a roach, though. He's a roach. He's a shifty lawyer. I don't know about him. I met him quite a few times on cases, and he comes in as friendly, but he's not so friendly. But.
Wait, hold on a second. Are you claiming that there's a lawyer who is acting one way and is really another way?
You got it, baby. You got it.
Is that what you're claiming?
Yeah,
that's a big claim right there, Phil. I don't know if that holds water, but I'll take your word on that.
We were investigating a homicide, and we went looking for a guy that, we were rounding up everybody, trying to talk to people. It was a cop homicide. Matter of fact, I mentioned it earlier, the Ralph Dole's homicide. So his client, we went looking for him, and we put the word out, talked to a few of his friends. The guy was a leader of a gang in Coney Island. And I get a call from him. He says, "Oh, you looking for my client?" I says, "Yeah, we'd like to speak to him." He goes, "Well, he's not going to speak to you, this and that, da, 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 da." He goes, "Can I have your phone number? I need to send you a fax." And he sent me like this nasty fax that if we went looking for his client, that he was going to have us in federal court on a civil rights lawsuit and, like that. So, but he wasn't my favorite lawyer.
You always have to ask a lawyer, can I, counsel, can I have your license number? Pull out your card now. Guy could be at a phone booth in a 2-clip location, and you got to get him to take his card out, give you his license number. They don't like that. They don't like it. I remember when I was a young cop, when I had to testify, I took like defense attorneys to be so adversarial. Like when I'd be on the stand, they'd say, "Good morning, officer." I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say it back to them because I wanted them to know the shit was on. So don't be saying good morning to me because I have
Says who it's a good morning. Get out of here.
Hey, good morning, officer.
Billy, I got to tell Tommy this real quick I told you this story before. I make a collar and I go through the night and I haven't slept since the day before, and a judge wants me in court on a hearing. And I say, "Are you kidding me?" And the boss calls me. He says, "Listen, you got to you're downtown Brooklyn already. You're in central booking. Get right to court. They want right away." So I go down there. I'm like not dressed or anything, half asleep. I go in there and I meet the defense attorney out in the hallway. At first I meet the DA, and the DA said, "Well, this is the defense attorney." And it was a very pretty, very attractive young lady. She goes, "Oh, officer, I'm so sorry." She goes, "I know that you didn't sleep all night. I'm going to be quick. I promise. Just a couple of quick questions. I promise I'll make it quick." I said, "All right, please. I appreciate it. Thank you." So I get up there, I get sworn in, you know, and officer, isn't it true that on this day that you, blah, blah, blah? I was like, whoa, okay, lady, is that how it's going to be, huh? You know, but she tried. And then afterwards, I hope you don't take offense. I was just doing my job. You know, I said, yeah, all right. Thank you. Have a good one. So I was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as a woman, you know.
Lawyers know how to put it on. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Lawyers can put it on.
That was early on in the career. Taught me a lesson. So
Tom, what's your next video going to be on?
So I did a video. I shot a video yesterday. It's actually on different celebrity crimes in New York. I'm going to be editing that here in the next couple of days. So like Warhol's shooting, when Warhol got shot in Union Square, Sid Vicious, that whole Sid Vicious sponging thing, the Dan Rather getting beat up.
Oh, I love that one. What's the frequency, Kenneth?
Frequency?
And then they beat the shit out of him.
Do you know the story, Phil?
I don't.
So the story is basically that Dan Rather was beat up outside in the Upper East Side just randomly by this guy who kept yelling out, "What's the frequency, Kenneth? Kenneth, what's the frequency?" And this guy they never caught him until later on. Some guy was arrested for murdering an NBC technician who wouldn't let him into the Today Show. And this guy basically tells and confesses to this thing. And he was completely insane. He beats up Dan Rather. Dan Rather even mentioned it on the news. He talks about how he got beat up and people don't need to worry and all that stuff. But it was such a weird, crazy story because this guy thought there was a chip in his brain and the frequency thing was about how to get the frequency to stop beaming these things to his brain. And it was such a crazy story that REM actually wrote a song about it, a hit song about it called "What's the Frequency, Kenneth?"
Wow.
And it all happened to Dan Rather in I think it was 86 or 87, but it's a crazy story. And it happened right there.
Yeah. I don't remember hearing that one. That's maybe in the 80s. I was too busy being a cop, 86. So I was an anti-crime and running around like a lunatic. And
you were too busy getting yelled at by lawyers.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Dan Rather one, and also too, obviously the John Lennon case is on there.
That really was a shame.
Yeah, that really is a sad story. That's a crazy story. But yeah, I think I thought the Warhol one was interesting too. It's an interesting story, but those stories, and and I have that the mob one. I'm trying to do a few videos on the true crime here in New York because I never really gave it much attention, and I want to kind of focus on it for a few videos and then move on.
L&B gets a lot of tours there around this time of the year. They get the pizza tour, and they also get the Christmas lights in Dyker Heights.
The Christmas light in Dyker Heights. I went there last year.
Yeah, they take them on in a bus, and they bring them to have pizza and a spumoni, which is the things you go to L&B Spumoni Gardens for, and then they take them to go look at the lights, or vice versa, And then the pizza tour, they just go around. They get like a slice of pizza and then a little something from 3 or 4 different pizzerias, famous pizzerias, But
I'm definitely going to go check it out. We are definitely going to go check it out.
Definitely do that. We'll put that together for sure.
That's right.
And then maybe we'll have it. We'll air it on the show, so that'll be great.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm down for that. I'd love to go. Me and Bill, we drove around, and Bill gave me his stories. It's time to hear yours.
I was showing him some of the hot spots in El Barrio in Spanish Harlem, and that's how we wound up at Rayo's, and that's actually a pretty interesting story.
Oh yeah,
the Rayo's murder. It's just that it was a story of disrespect and just some guy just losing it. An old guy at the bar named Louis Barone. His name was Louis Barone. He was 67 years old. A Broadway singer was singing a song in the bar. And this wise guy at the bar, I think his last name was Ciccatelli. He was a made guy. And he says out loud, he goes, "I wish that wailing slut would shut the hell up," right? So this old guy, Louis Barone, says, "Hey, buddy, show a little respect to this woman. What are you, crazy?" He goes, "Well, show us some respect." So he says, he looks at him, he goes, "I'll do this to you in the ass." And he says to him, "No, you won't." And he pulls out a gun and shoots him dead right at the bar.
That's crazy.
And he walks out, and there's a police van right there. They grab him. The gun is still, he left the gun on the floor. They grabbed the gun. And when they interviewed him, they said, "Why are you carrying a gun?" And he goes, "Orange alert, the terrorist alert." That's why he said he was carrying a gun. And he died in prison. He
was an old school guy that believed in respect. That's what that was.
Yeah. He was like a fringe mobster. He wasn't a made guy, but he was like a bookie, and he lived right around Pleasant Avenue there. you know. So and no one in Rayo saw a thing. Vinny the Vest was ducking down,
funny?
mixing drinks, you know.
Yeah.
It was like we were so pissed at them because they were all like so uncooperative.
But he was still convicted, right? He's convicted anyway.
Oh yeah,
right?
well he pled guilty. He pled guilty to manslaughter, and he died in prison like 5 or 6 years. He was 67 years old. So.
You know, that to me is one of the craziest things. We're talking about the mob thing, like the idea of what is it? I think they call it omerta or whatever. The idea you don't talk, you don't squeal, you don't. And to me, it's like amazing. Like the story, for example, of Costello getting shot. When he got shot he got shot at the Majestic, the apartment building. When Frank Costello they tried to kill him. Vinny the Chin actually was the one who shot him. And Costello knew it was him who shot him, and he would not testify. He said he didn't see who did it. The only person who even said he saw anything was the security guard there, but it wasn't enough to convict Vinny the Chin. So when the case was over, Vinny the Chin comes out and actually says, "Hey, thanks, Frank." He says he thanks the guy that he actually tried to kill. He thanks him for not actually testifying. Isn't that crazy to me? That
and Costello got a pass over it. They didn't try to kill him anymore.
Yeah. Right? They didn't. Because it pushed him to retire. He retired, is what he did. So because of that hit, a failed hit, he retired. He said, "All right, I'm out," and he retired from there.
Right. Well, you know, was another amazing thing that I find amazing is the. And Sammy the Bull kept saying, "That's Cosa Nostra. That's Cosa Nostra."
Right.
And this guy, Sonny Black, he was the guy who introduced Donnie Brasco.
Johnny Brasco, right?
The real Joe Pistone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he said he's a good guy. He's my guy. Blah 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 blah. And when he found out that Joe Pistone was an FBI agent, he just went to a bar. He gave the bartender his wallet, his rings, his keys to his car, and he just. He got called in to get killed.
Yeah,
and he
knew he was going to get it, and he went anyhow. He knew it was part of his.
Which you know, and Sammy the Bull would say, "That's Cosa Nostra." You know, I have respect. Yeah, they have respect for that. I would have headed down to Florida on the next plane. Yeah. There's no way I was going in. You know.
Yeah.
But you know what? The other part of that story is that he told his, I think it was his girlfriend. I'm not sure if it was wife or his girlfriend. He told tell Donnie that I forgive him for it. He knew that the word was out that Donnie Brasco was Joe Pistone, and she wound up. They set up a phone call or actually a meeting.
She went and met them. Yeah,
they made a meeting between her and Joe Pistone, and she says he really loved you, and he felt he felt that he wanted to forgive you for it. He knew you were just doing your job or whatever. So there was like a little bit of a meeting there, and they made it happen because, they couldn't give up his location, but they must have, they picked a very out of the way place and they made the meeting happen.
Phil, that's Cosa Nostra.
Yeah, that's Cosa Nostra.
Well, what's interesting, you bring that up is like Rab talks about this in his book. He talks about how a lot of historians and stuff on this kind of thing say that one of the reasons why the Italian mafia actually succeeded compared to, let's say, the Jewish or the Irish mafia is because of that kind of respect for the rule, is because they actually stuck to these things. Like when they said, our family is going to let you do your thing and we divide up in the commission, this kind of regimented idea of what the mafia is supposed to be, and respecting that rule and those rules is why they survived longer than the other ones. Because if you look at like the Irish mafia and Oni Madden, all these different people, they fought amongst themselves over everything and they were brutal with each other. The same with like the Jewish mafia too. And they didn't survive as long as like a whole unit the way the Italian mafia did. And they say it's because of these rules that people look at now today, like, how is that possible? How could they do these things? But that's the reason why they were able to last so long, they say.
Amazing. You know what, guys? We're at an hour and 18 minutes. I think got to.
Where does the time go, huh?
It was fun. I mean, it's. I think the people were enjoying it too. We did something different today. Sort of got away from the real crime stuff and just had some fun. And my buddy Tom Delgado here, who's a jack of all trades, as you can tell, right? And he's got long hair now too. Anyway. Philly Grimaldi, last words.
Last words, Tom. It was just such a pleasure to meet you. I'm really looking forward to collaborating with you and doing something together. We definitely got to bring you out to Coney Island and to Bensonhurst and to Gravesend, where Ellen B. Spumoni Gardens is, and maybe we'll get together and do something.
Oh,
Great
definitely.
meeting you, and it was a pleasure.
Tom, anything to plug? Any last words?
No, I mean, anyone here, I guess, just the channel, the Tom DNYC. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at Tom DNYC. I have my information for the weekly comedy show there, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't do really Twitter, any of that stuff. So yeah, Instagram and YouTube, and yeah, I try to make a video a week, and I would love to do another thing with you, Bill, and you, Phil, as well, and it'd be super fun. I always love meeting up with Bill, obviously, and it's been great to meet you and talk to you, Phil. So we definitely got to do something.
We'll do it. We'll definitely do it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And I didn't forget, you guys owe me L&B Spumoni, baby.
That's right. That's right. So, folks, on behalf of myself, Bill Cannon, and Phil Grimaldi from Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, good night, and thank you so much for supporting us and for listening tonight.
Stay safe, everybody.
One episode just ain't enough.